What do the Pachelbel's cannon, steam train whistles, and a radio announcer have to do with one another? Hey, I'm Ron Drotos, and welcome to my journey through the real book. What is this? 138. Good Evening, Mr. and Mrs. America by John Guerin. It's not a tune that you're going to call off. Matter of fact, I've never actually played this anywhere except, in the real book and trying to learn it, and now for this video I'm going to play it for you. So it's not a jam session tune, but it's fun. It's a fun tune to get into, and it's more like a big band chart. You're playing rhythmic figures, It's really a big band tune, and there's a couple of tunes in here that are written out charts for the right and left hand. So What is another one, much easier than this one. But it's fun. It's from the early 70s, and here's what it has to do with steam whistles and Pachelbel's cannon, because this is how musicians think, and maybe you've thought like this too. I remember one time, the Pachelbel's cannon. I remember thinking, what if Scott Joplin wrote that, What would it sound like if Scott Joplin had written the Pachelbel's cannon, right? If it was ragtime. And it took me about 2 weeks, and I came up with the Pachelbel's cannon rag, which you can get for free, KeyboardImprov. There's a link to get it for free, or email me. But basically, I came up with it. I came up with a ragtime version of Pachelbel's cannon, like Scott Joplin would write it. Duke Ellington would do that. He would say, what if we took the sound of a steam train, which they used to travel on in the 20s and 30s, and we made a big band sound like that? So it's a challenge to himself, inspired by something else, non-musical in that case. So he had the drums, chugga, 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 like the wheels getting faster, faster, Daybreak Express. And then the band comes in with, and the way they did it, it sounds exactly like a steam train. It's using your creativity to take something from either another type of music, like Pachelbel's cannon, or a train, and make it into music. And that's what John Guerin did here. And I never realized it before, because I was born in 1964, but if you are a decade or two older than that watching this video, you will remember, if you're lived in America, Walter Winchell, who was a radio announcer, who I don't remember, but I did a little research. And basically, he used to have a radio show. It was a news show, and so they would have a telegraph, the sound of a telegraph machine. And he would say, "Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, from border to border and coast to coast and all the ships at sea." And John Guerin was writing this in the early 70s. This says 75. He must have remembered that, because Walter Winchell was still in recent memory at that time. And and this is the beginning. See? That's the connection here. I never realized that until about an hour ago. And I've even written the Jazz Pianist Ultimate Guide to the Real Book on this tune, and I didn't make that connection, which I'm now going to change. I'm going to put that on there. So basically, he must have said, what if we took this, maybe he grew up hearing that, I don't know, in the 50s or something. Why don't we take that, and what would it sound like if we made this into a jazz fusion tune, with a bass line? Keep going, right? And it becomes a lively jazz fusion tune. It's a whole roadmap. It's a lot of fun. The soloing is modal. Now, there's not much difference between a D7 sus4 and a D minor 7add 4. It's the same chord, basically, except in the D minor, you could say, okay, we'll put in an F as well. It's the same chord. They both have D, G, A, and C, but this also could have the F. And there's this nice little counter melody. Often in music, when you have things moving very fast, like these ba 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 ba, or cymbals or fast strings or something, and you have a lively bass line, there's some padding. You even see it in classical music, Mozart and Beethoven. The strings will be going crazy, and there'll be a French horn line that's in whole notes. And buried in here is this. See, it's like glue, holding it all together. making it more solid. See? So you got these three things going on. The bass line, this telegraph, and you know, this just in on the news, right? Old fashioned. And then these long notes here. And then the bass, if you're playing in a big band or this on chart, the bass would keep going with that, but we don't have to as pianists. You know, you establish it out front, and then the listener still hears it after a while. So then you could just come up with, and you improvise your bass line. You know, it's crazy to always try to keep that bass line through. Nobody does that. Even Keith Jarrett varies his vamps from measure to measure often. You know, be musical about it and pianistic. So I'm going to take a deep breath, dive in, and follow this whole roadmap, and I'll see you at the end. there we go. I invite you to do the same. It's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. And it brings me back to my days when I was in college, playing in a big band, a stage band, and then even playing in New York City with big bands. I never played anything this complex, because most of the stuff would be, for me, swing dance oriented and Count Basie. And it's kind of fun to just dive into some jazz fusion that's really complex. It almost reminds me of some of the Frank Zappa stuff that he was writing for horns. I think there was an album, Waka Jawaka, things like that in the early 70s. So it's part of our journey through the real book. Thanks for following it with me. Give it a try yourself. It's fun to play. The solo section's great. And I'll see you in the next video.